Hello and good evening. I see that I'm now live on Facebook. Welcome to Case the Catty. My name is Erica. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator living on the west coast of Canada. So I'm a Canadian demonstrator. Welcome to everyone who knows about me, is a fan who watches me quite a while, or anyone who is new. Welcome, welcome. So Thursday nights I dedicate to casing the catalog. I love to use the catalog. I think Stampin' Up! Goes to a lot of work creating a catalog. Not very many companies, if any that I'm aware of, have catalogs. So it's a real treat to still have a catalog. It's the way years ago when I was stamping, it was just the way you bought things and you did things. And often catalogs were called inspiration catalogs because you got lots of ideas for paper crafting, because in the early days you didn't really know what it was all about, stamping, and didn't really know the products involved in it. So the catalog was a great resource, and a lot of places have now gone totally online, so you don't get a catalog. But Stampin' Up! Still does a beautiful catalog 3 times a year. We have an annual catalog that runs from May to April. And then we have a fall catalog that runs from September to December, or into early January, I think. And then we have a spring catalog from January to April as well as Celebration, the biggest sale of the year. So we're very, very lucky that Stampin' Up! Has these beautiful catalogs. So speaking of the catalog, I'm going to switch cameras to show you the suite that I'm going to be using tonight. And I'm just going to see if anybody's watching. Hi, Judy. Nice of you to join in. We need to have a chat one of these days. I haven't talked to you for a while. So here we go. I'm going to pull up my other camera here, and I'm going to pull my camera down to my desktop, and I'm going to zoom it a little bit. That's too much. There we go. Okay, so if you happen to have a catalog, I'm looking at page 40 and 41, and it's a suite of products called Wildly Flowering. And I wasn't attracted to, it was the paper that put me off in the beginning. I wasn't too sure of the colors. They really reminded me of really old-fashioned fabrics. I remember my mom had this armchair, huge armchair, and it kind of had fabrics like this on it until she had it reupholstered to something a little bit more modern. But anyway, I've since seen a lot of projects made with this paper, and now I'm absolutely in love with it. So it's got a stamp set. This is the stamp set called Wildflower Designs, and it's got a nice scripted font that's being used for the greetings. And has some just simple little flowers on here. I'm not quite sure what all the flowers are, but there they are. And then you've got a little bit of a background of what I call grunge, just to fill in the background if you want. It's a red rubber stamp set. I've got some already mounted on my acrylic blocks, ready to use. And tonight I'm making 2 cards. Okay, so here are the dies, the Wildflower Designs dies. This is what they look like. I always take a photograph before I start using them, so I keep track of the dies that are in here. And this is what they really look like. There you go. So this is a beautiful framed piece that you can use. And then you've got 4 of the florals that you can actually stamp, color, and then die cut out. Okay. So I'm going to show you some things that you can do with these dies. They're quite versatile. And I've already done a lot of because I'm doing 2 cards tonight, I've already done a lot of the cutting for it. It also comes with Dashing Designs 3D embossing folder. It's really quite a nice embossing folder. So that's included in the suite here as item number 3. And then it also comes with these little dots. They almost look like, they remind me of golf balls. They look like mini golf balls to me, but they're brass, and they've got 2 sizes in there. So just a few embellishments. Okay, so we're going to be using all of the products in the suite tonight. So the next thing to show you is I want to show you the papers. And I've taken out one sheet of each because you always get 2 sheets of each, and they're double-sided. So you get quite a few patterns. This one we're using on one of the cards. Look how beautiful that is. Excuse me. But it's got the beautiful misty moonlight in the background. And this is wild wheat in here. Okay, and then the back of that is just some real simple, looks like burlap. So it's just a plain, simple pattern on there. And then you've got this absolutely stunning piece. I mean, that on the front of a card with a little greeting, die cut greeting of some kind is just perfect. Then on the back of that, you've got this little flower on here. It does remind me of a flower, but I can't think of what it is right now. And then you've got this one. These kind of look like what's that early magnolia. These kind of remind me of magnolias in here. So you've also got the moody mauve in here, and you've got some really nice greens, and then you've got that same print now. You've got the blue print, and then you've also got it in the moody mauve. This is a really pretty one. I love this one. And then on the back of that, you've got this. I also love this. This would make a nice summer skirt print, I think. That's really, really pretty. And then you've got this pattern is repeated, but it's got a different base color. I'll just show you. This is the blue one. And this is one in a kind of a crumb cake color in the background. And then on the back of that, you've just got the plain blue burlap because you've got the beige burlap. So you see how they kind of repeat the patterns. And then you've got this one. This is really a larger patterned paper or flowers. And you've got them in white, and then you've got them in the moody mauve. And it's also bringing in the brown, which is early espresso. And then look at this. This is a repeat of the other print, this one here, but you've got it in the moody mauve. So yeah, so when you look at the papers and you start working with them, you go, yeah, I kind of like them now. Now, I haven't made anything with these yet. So tonight's the first time I'm actually playing with this suite. So the cards I want to reproduce here, I wanted to do 2 different cards. I want to do some simple stamping. I don't do a lot of simple stamping, but for new stampers, I think it's really important to know that you just need inks. So these are the inks I'm going to be using. I've got Mossy Meadow, Misty Moonlight, and Wild Wheat. So you need inks. You, of course, need stamps, and then you need paper, and you can make a card. So those are really all the supplies that you need. You don't have to worry about designer series paper necessarily, or ribbons or embellishments. You can just do some real simple card making. So on this one, we're going to just do some simple stamping, and we are going to do some embossing with white powder on both cards. These 2 cards are what we're making. Let me just zoom in again. So we're going to make, we're going to make these 2 cards. This one is the simple stamping, and this one is a little bit more advanced. So we're doing some embossing on the card base, and then we're using those dies to create this kind of framed look. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to do this one first. This is the one that I've got everything ready for it. So my card base is the Misty Moonlight. It's a 5.5 by 8.5, and then scored at 4.25. And then I always like to burnish. Let me pull my camera back out again. There we go. So I've got my phone folder here. I like to just press on my edge to make the card lie flat. Who else have we got joining us tonight? Kathy. Haven't used the suite yet. Looking forward to see what you do tonight. Love the embossing folder. Yes, I'm really excited about doing this card. That first paper looks a little like an agapanthus flower. I've heard that name, but I'm not that familiar with it. Okay, so this is how I cut these out. So I had a piece of basic white cardstock, And the first thing you do is you die cut the largest frame, or not the largest frame, but the scallop frame. So the scallop frame cuts both the outside scalloped edge and the inside scalloped edge. So you end up getting this piece and this piece. All right, so they're cut kind of separately in that one frame. Okay, and then I die cut this, and actually I die cut it out of this one here. Okay. So the fun thing about the die cuts is that you can end up with some extra pieces in here. So I've got this piece as a frame that I'm going to be using, and this die in the middle is what cut out this white piece. So I cut this out, and this is going to have the DSP on top of it. And then I created a little frame that's going to go on top of that. So when you layer the dies, and I like to cut them separately, you can put them together. So you would place this down on your paper, and then you would fit this inside, and just make sure you've got the correct spacing all the way around. If you're not that comfortable doing it that way, then die cut either the small one first and then die cut the larger one, or vice versa. But you can use a bit of tape and tape the two together and then die cut them together if you like. Now, when you die cut them, use these two frames, you can end up with this, okay? So you need to experiment with stuff. And then the other thing that what happened to that other piece of paper? I had another piece, oh, here. So whenever this is a tip I gave the other night, whenever I die cut, and I'm using DSP, it's really smart to die cut in the center, because then you could use this on another card. You could either use it as a layer where you're building on top of this hole here, or you can actually use this hole and then, you know, fill it in and then create a frame around it if you want it, and just create another card, rather than sort of like die cutting on the edge and then somehow wasting a bit of the paper, or you end up with a scrap, and you can use that anyway. But I'm trying to do this more. And so as a result of that, with all this die cutting, I can create another card from all of this. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is we're going to emboss this. Now, where's my embossing folder? Right here. Now, this is a card front. So when you emboss the card front, we don't have any other choice but to put it in like this. Okay. And then we're going to put it in like this. Now, typically, I always advise people that when you're using an embossing folder and putting it in the machine, you always want to roll it through with the fold at the top. You never want to roll it through from the open end, because it can buckle the plastic, and it has happened to me. So you will always want to roll it through with the folded edge at the top. However, we have a problem when you're doing a card base, because the platform isn't wide enough to roll that through like this. So you do have to fold this over. And I found in the early days when we had thinner embossing folders, you could easily fold this to the back and run it through. But these are too thick now. So I'm sort of going against the rule of making sure the fold goes through first. And I'm going to actually run it through with the side going through first. Now, there isn't as much of a problem with damaging the folder by going through on the side, but it's when you go through from the bottom open edge that you can wreck your embossing folder, okay? So I'm just going to place this in here and get it as close to my fold as possible. And then I'm going to run it through the machine like this. So I'll be right back. My machine is right next to me. And I am using the platform, the gray plate, which is the number 4 plate. This is the one I'm using here. So I'm putting that on top of the embossing folder, and I'm getting rid of all platforms except for the base platform. Now I'm going to run this through. All right, see, so it comes through unscathed. And there we have the front of our card that's embossed. Okay, and look at that embossing folder. I hope you could see that. Look at the texture in that. It's beautiful. I love it. All right, so there's our card base. So what we're doing is we're going to use this wild wheat frame. Okay, then we're going to be putting in this piece. And then we're putting this piece in. This created the frame inside. So it's going to be put together like that. So what I might do is I might start with the DSP first, going on the inside. Now, if you wanted to, I mean, you could put this on top of this one, and then fill it in. And then put this, maybe this is a better way to do it, and then put this edge on top of it. Maybe that would hold it together a little bit better. So actually, maybe I will glue. So let me get my silicone pad out. Yes, I think I'm going to put my frame on here first. Okay, so I'm going to use, I've got Tombow glue in this little bottle here. And so I'm just going to put some little dots along here. These little bottles are great for getting a finer tip. Okay, now I like to use tweezers when I work. So I'm going to pick that up. And I'm going to, now with Tombow, you'll be able to move it around a little bit. So let's just get that on there like so. And then I'm going to glue this on in the middle. So this helps you just slide it in there versus trying to center it. Okay, and the Tombow allows you a little bit of wiggle time. Okay, and then this is going to fit right inside this frame on the card. Okay, so what I might do, and don't worry if it's not quite centered, I wouldn't worry about it. So I'm going to glue this to the center, and then we're going to be putting a greeting across here. So let's glue this together. Put that in the center. Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining in. I'll have to look up that flower, Agapanthus. Okay, and then I'm going to glue this on. So again, I'm just going to do a few little dabs on here. And then I will fit this around the frame. Wow, I think that's pretty nice looking. What do you guys think? Beautiful. Now, if you're a photographer and you're still printing out photos, this would be ideal for a photo of some beautiful flowers framed in here. Instead of using your DSP, you can use some flowers in here. Okay. So now I've ended up with these pieces that I could use on another card. Okay. All right, so now we're going to take out some, I know I brought it here to my desk. What did I do with it? I'm looking for my early espresso cardstock. I had it right here. Okay, it's gone for a while. Nope, right here. I knew I had it. All right, now I happen to see a little piece in here that might be just perfect for my greeting. Or oh, I kept it out. Actually, that's the wrong piece, I think. Hang on. Let me look at my picture again. No, we wanted the brown. I tucked this in the wrong envelope. Okay, so we've got this little piece here. It's going to be too big, but let's first stamp. So I've got my stamping buddy here, and I've got my Versamark ink. Just tapping this very lightly on my ink pad because I don't want to catch the edges. And let's put this right in the middle, and I might have to trim it a bit. Okay, and then I've got my powder here. So I'm just tapping off the excess. Okay. Now we're going to be doing another embossed greeting on the second card. Okay, now I've got my embossing tweezers here, and I'm going to pull out my, let's just cover up my ink pad. I'm going to bring out my heat tool, and we'll heat this up. I like to let it get hot a little bit first before I start blowing on the powder. Oh, look what I did. I went a little too close with my heat tool and I schmucked it up a bit. So I'm going to redo it. My heat tool's a little bit longer than I think it is. So let's do that again. So again, lightly tapping on the ink pad. I'm really grateful that the ink stays wet for a long time. It's a sticky ink and it stays wet for a long time so that you don't have to feel rushed. There, that's better. Now let's heat it without touching it this time. You know, sometimes there's techniques that you use that, I don't know, you like them, but you kind of don't want to use them again, or you get tired of using them. I never, ever get tired of embossing. Okay, if you're wondering what I'm doing now, is sometimes when you cut your cardstock, if your blade isn't all that sharp, you end up with kind of like an edge that isn't very flat. And so if you use your bone folder, you can flatten that out. I'll just keep this out for the next greeting. Okay, so I'm going to move out a little more. All right, so we've got our greeting now, and then we're going to take a look at, yes, it's way too big. So I'm going to do some trimming. So I'm going to pull out my mini chop, my mini guillotine. Now, oh, it's actually flagged on both ends. So I'm just going to trim off a little bit on the edge here. And I will put a bit of tape on here just to hold it in place. And I'm just going to use my scissors. We're going to flag. Looks like both ends are flagged. So I'm just going to chop this a bit closer. And then I'm going to come in. And then I'm going to come in from the sides. There we go. Look at that. A sweet little thank you. And I'm going to put this on dimensionals. I could make that just a little bit shorter. Let's just trim it up just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to grab some dimensionals and then we'll put this on our card. I'm using up all my little ends and bits from my dimensional sheets. So we'll just put this on here. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit more. And there you go. Okay, there's card number 1. Simple, simple. But the frame is just gorgeous, I think, with that beautiful embossed background. Oh, agapanthus, I now know what that is. Isn't that big onion flower? It's really round, and it's usually purple. Thanks, Carol. So there you go. And yeah, we've got a few embellishments on here. So let's find out where those are. Here they are. So I haven't even opened the package yet. Yes, I have. So what I'm doing also to keep track of my embellishments is I actually put the date or the catalog that they come from, the 2024 Annual Catalog, and then I put the name of the stamp set that they kind of coordinate with. Not to say you can't use these on any other projects, but when you're kind of looking to coordinate everything, I can then pull it out and say, oh, that matches with that. Okay, I'm going to grab my take your pick tool. Let's see, where have they got these? Oh, they got a few on the, oh, they're using 4. 1, 2, no, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're using 5. So we're going to do 3 little ones. I just dropped that one. We're going to put one here. Oops, dropped it again. I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to put one here. And I love this take your pick tool because, you know, I just push the embellishments right off the plastic. And then we've got one here. And then we've got one here. I think I might use a large one now. See, I just pushed them off. Those are very, very sweet. They almost look like they represent the center of a flower. Think of a sunflower and what the centers look like. I think there's another one on here. Yeah, there is. I'm going to take another big one and put it. Whoops. They're not behaving very well tonight. Oh, I'm going to put one here. There you go. Okay, so there's your embellishments and there's your card. I'll lift it up higher so you can see it. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I just love that. It's so cool when you make the card from the catalog because it's brighter, it's more bold, you can see the texture, it just comes to life. I mean, it's nice to see it in the catalog, but it's nothing compared to when you create it live. Bring it to life by making it. So you'll just put a piece of white in here. You can put, you can stamp something in there. Maybe if we have time at the end, we can decorate the inside. Okay, that's card number one. All right, card number two. Let's just set these aside. Okay, so we have no embossing on this. Now I'm going to pull out, you've seen me use these before. They are my card size templates. I made these absolutely years and years and years ago. And now I see them, you know, people are using them all over the place. But I basically started with a card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, right? So that's the size of your card base. And then I went down 1/4 inch on each one. So I went from 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 to 4 by 5 1/4. And I just kept going down by 1/4. Now you can also make a set for 8s if you need to. But I just, you know, when I pick this, then I'll just go down by an 8 if I need to. But I'm trying to figure out, they're really handy for figuring out what size you want on your card. Okay. So this is my Mossy Meadow card base for the second card. And we have this here. If you look at it in the catalog, kind of want to figure out what size. I know it's not 4 by 5 1/4. So it might be the next size down. So there's the first size down, 4 by 5 1/4. And I might go down 3 3/4 by 5. So when you have them cut out, you can lay them on the card and then see if that border is enough of a border. Well, it looks like it's a little bit, this is a little bit too big. The border's not quite wide enough. So I'm going to go down one more, which happens to be 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. You see, and that gives me a wider border, which is closer to what they're doing when the card that I'm casing. Okay, so I find these really handy and I do use them quite often. Okay, so I know that I need to cut a piece of basic white 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. So I've got some, I cut a few sheets at a time. I just cut them in quarters and I use them for stamping, or I cut them down. So I want 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. So 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Okay, don't throw these strips out. These strips are great for stamping greetings on. So I have a little tray in my drawer to the side here that I keep them in. All right, so I'm going to set aside the card base and I'm going to go with some stamping now. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to start with the large, usually when you're doing stamping and making a design, you typically start with the largest flowers because then you can fill in around it. This is a rule that we use for when you're creating your own DSP, your own designer series paper. You can stamp the design. If you don't want to buy a lot of paper, you can just stamp a design on paper. Typically, you take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of white cardstock, and then you make a design on it. Okay, just like creating designer series paper. So you always start with the larger images, and then you fill in with all the small pieces. And then with an 8.5 by 11, you can cut that into 4 and then make 4 cards. Okay. All right, so 3.5 by 4 3/4. And I'm going to start with wild wheat. And this is the largest flower that we're going to use. Kind of also reminds me of when a dandelion goes to seed, but you can see through the flowers here. So now I'm not sure on this card if they did, stamped off to take off some ink, or if they did full strength. I'm going to go with full strength. So I'm going to do one here. And I'm going to do another one. Oh, now I want to get scrap. When I'm stamping off the sides of my card, I don't want to get my silicone craft sheet messy. And I'm going to put one down here, and it goes off the edge a little bit. Okay, so those are those two. Then I'm going to grab this little flower. It's a smaller version of that. And this is done in the Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to do one here. And I'm going to do one here. Okay. And then I'm going to grab Mossy Meadow. And the Mossy Meadow is this cute little flower. This is really a sweet little flower. And you don't really see the flowers at the top of the card. They've kind of stamped it off the card like that. I have so much trouble with this Mossy Meadow. This is my second stamp pad that I purchased. And you can ink it till the cows come home, and it still doesn't look like it's been inked. And I'm going to throw one in here. Okay. You see, it's hardly inked at all. And I re-inked it not too long ago. Now, I'm going to talk to you about this a bit and ask you if you've done this. But I read an interesting article a couple of weeks ago about when your ink pads are kind of scratchy looking, or it looks like there's something on there. What they're recommending you do now is you completely wash it. So you run it under cold water, and you wear gloves for sure, but you're going to run it under cold water, and you're going to squeeze out all the ink. And you could almost take a credit card and sort of like gently rub the top of the ink pad and run it until it's totally clear, and then re-ink it. So I might try that on this. And this one lady, I can't remember who she was, but it worked for her. She said it was like new. And I think even Connie Stewart had mentioned that too, but I'm going to try that with this one. Poppy Parade was another ink pad I struggled with, and Mango Melody. Well, we don't have Mango Melody anymore, but I bought 3 different ink pads for that one. It just was always yucky. I don't know what it was with those 3 colors. All right, now if you wanted to do a bit more, remember I said there's a little grunge stamp in that. So if you wanted to fill in more, so as if you were making, you wanted to fill this whole piece in, you could add a few more of these flowers, or you could fill it in with this little bit of grunge. But we're going to do it just like the Case the Catty. I could always do the grunge on the inside of the card as well. Okay, so we've got this, and this is so simple. I've stamped a few images on here. I'm going to adhere this to my card front. Let me grab my tape runner here. And we'll just put some tape on here. Try and get that centered. Okay, now I have to make my next greeting. So, did I bring? Okay. I'm having struggles tonight keeping track of my cardstock. I need some misty moonlight scraps. I could have sworn. No, I didn't. I thought I brought them to my table, but I didn't. So this time we want a piece that goes right across. So what was the measurement for this? 3.5 inches. So I need a piece that's 3.5 inches wide. This is a little bit more narrow. Okay. And we are going to emboss that. Now, if I was smart, I would have put this on before I glued it to my card base. Okay, so that you could have a bit of overhang and then you could trim it. So that would have been a smarter thing to do. So now I have to cut this to the right size. Sending happy thoughts. So I'm going to first stamp it, I think. Well, let's trim it down first. To 3.5. Okay, so we've got that. And then I'll stamp it and emboss it, and then we will now I don't think, nope, I didn't. Sending happy thoughts. It's a nice long stamp. Okay, and I'm going to use this block. So let's get that on there. And then now it's a longer stamp. So I think I'm going to ink it up this way. I just don't want to catch my edges of the red rubber. So I'm just going to tap it on there. And center that. I'm going to trim it a bit, so I'm going to bring it forward. Grab my tweezers. Grab my powder. Now there's a few little stray bits, so I always have a little paintbrush near me. To brush off any little stray bits. And then we'll heat this up. There we go. I have to wait for that to cool down a bit so I don't smudge it. Oh, hi, Carolyn. Life is getting in the way. Oh, I know. It can do that sometimes. All right, so we're going to give this a little trim again. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on there. And then okay. So now that I'm really looking at this card, this piece did extend past the edge, but I'm going to do edge to edge now that I've trimmed it. But it did go past a little bit here. Okay. And I think I'll pop mine up on dimensionals. Let's do that. So here's a really nice edge that I can use. I can find my scissors. I'll do this nice long strip on here. Okay. I'll stick that in the middle. Okay, and last but not least, we need a few more of these. Okay, let me always cover up your ink pads and always close your embossing powder. Oh my goodness, those could be two big disasters. Okay, let me just find, here they are. Not too much of a struggle finding things tonight. Sometimes I have a real struggle. Okay, we've got one here. And we've got one here. And we've got let's put a big one on here. Let's see, we'll do one here. And then we'll do a couple more. So we've got 3, 4, 5. You always do odd numbers. There you go. Really add something when you put the little embellishments on there. Okay, so there's your second card. Look how simple that is. I hope that greeting's not crooked. No, it's not. So there's your second card. So here's your first card. And here's your second card. I love those colors. What do you guys think of the colors? So that flower is also called Lily of the Nile. Agapanthus. I'm going to look that up. Have you got some in your garden, Judy? Kathy, washing does work. I've done it before. Well, that's good to know. But it must take almost a whole bottle of re-inker to re-ink it, does it not? Thanks, Carol. Yeah, I love the colors. I think the colors are great. Okay, so let me pull back me and I'll pull up my camera. There we go. I'm just waiting to get a reply from Kathy about the re-inking the pad. How much ink does it take? I can't imagine this pad getting this to wash out, this dark color, getting it to wash out totally. But I'm going to give it a go. It's worth a go. Because Stampin' Up Unless it's within 90 days that you've purchased it, they won't replace it. I've tried. They won't replace it. So if it happens right away, that's why when you buy your ink pads, you know, if you buy a new ink pad, especially the dark, it seems to happen with the dark colors, not the lighter colors, but make sure you use it and use it a lot, you know, within the first 2 months, because you've got 60 days. And then if it starts to go wonky on you, you can return it within 90 days. You did have some, but the frost got them. Oh, that's too bad. Okay, Kathy, if you could maybe leave a comment after I'm done and just let me know about the inker. I'd love to know that. And tell me where you're from. Love to know where you're watching from. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I will be back on Monday morning for Case the Catty. I have a couple of things that I might do. I've come across some really, really simple layouts lately that, and they both feature DSP. So it's a great way to use up your DSP. And yeah, so that's for Monday. So have a great weekend. Anybody have anything exciting happening on the weekend? You can pop it in the comments. I'm hoping to get out on my bike now that the nicer weather is back. I have a new electric bike, and I can just bike right out the front door and just go, which is great. I don't have to worry about hills now so much or traffic as much. So it's going to be great. Okay, thanks for watching. And don't forget about the bundle sale is on right now. As a matter of fact, I just put in an order for, as a demonstrator, we can do pre-order. I only ordered a couple of things, and then I did order a bundle. I wasn't going to get it, but today I saw a card. It's the marketplace one with the fruits or the vegetables. I saw the cutest card and I thought, oh my gosh, because the dies will cut out some of the pieces on the paper too. And it was just too cute. So it's an additional 10%. So I threw that in my basket. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I really appreciate you watching. Share my videos if you think other people can utilize my tips and tricks. Don't forget, I post all of these on, this is on my YouTube channel as well. And yeah, so thanks again, and have a great weekend. Bye.